Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the John Campea YouTube channel, and this, our very first episode of Open Mic. And Open Mic is basically this. One of the most popular things on my channel is everybody loves to send in comments and questions. So I thought, you know what? It's time for us to have a daily show, Monday through Friday, where all I'm going to do here is give you guys the platform. You are going to talk, you guys, the live viewers, are going to talk about whatever it is you want us to talk about. Now, there's a number of ways you can do that. Number one is by sending in live questions. The easiest, most effective way is to do that with Super Chat. That guarantees you get your question on. And on top of that, using Super Chat also supports this channel, which is great. Because I'll let you in on something. I'm actually getting close to hiring somebody to help me out. So there, I'll let you know. So that helps me out a great deal. The other way is I will take some questions from Twitter as well. And the way you send in a tweet is simply by tweeting to me at John Campea. And I can't guarantee I'll use your tweet, but if you send in a tweet, I might be able to get around to that. And also, something I'm going to try that's a little bit new, and I'm a little bit scared to death here because, and somebody's asking live chat board, why the headphones? You'll find out in a second. I'm a little terrified here because I'm trying something different from a technical point of view. You can send in audio or video questions for Open Mic. How do you send in an audio or a video question? Well, you email it to me at john@thejohncampeashow.com, but you put the words Open Mic in the subject line. Put the words Open Mic in the subject line. Now, this isn't for a question. This is only if you're sending in an audio or a video question. If you're sending in an audio or video question, make sure you keep your audio or video question to 20 seconds or less. That's very, very important. Okay, so with that out of the way, we're going to start off the show today with some audio and video questions. God, I hope this works. I'm not really sure it's going to, but let's give it a shot. Now, this first question comes in from somebody who did not include their name. So it's somebody from New York. I'm sorry I don't have your name in there, but you did include your name. But I'm going to use your question here anyway. Let's check it out.
John, greetings from New York. What is your Mount Rushmore of action heroes? For me, it's Stallone, Schwarzenegger, Bruce Willis, Bruce Lee. And what do you think The Rock Johnson needs to be on that mount? All these other actors have great franchises like Terminator, Rambo, Rocky, Die Hard. What do you think he needs to be there? Bye.
All right, thanks a lot for the question, man. And the Mount Rushmore, now, that's a popular question. People always usually wanting to talk about Mount Rushmore. The Mount Rushmore of directors, the Mount Rushmore of actors, Mount Rushmore of action heroes. So that's going to be different for a lot of people. And your list is a very good list. And it's exactly the type of video question I like getting. Yeah, you're asking a question, but you're actually giving your opinion and your comment, and I like that a lot. So for me, I think most people, I think 90% of the people out there, if we were going to start talking about Mount Rushmore of action heroes, I think 90% of the people out there would include two of the people you include, and that's Stallone and Schwarzenegger. I think that's, is it fair to say, guys, that's a no-brainer, right? Stallone and Schwarzenegger are probably no-brainers, right? And then there's a lot of other options. A lot of people might want to include, like, Charles Bronson on that list. How could you not agree with that? Sure. Bruce Lee, obviously, that's not even going to be on the list. For me, and this is totally subjective, and maybe I would think differently a year or so from now. For me, the Mount Rushmore of action stars is Stallone and Schwarzenegger and Jean-Claude Van Damme and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. I'll actually put Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson up there. Now, I think one of the reasons that a lot of people don't think of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson when they, pardon me, when they think of the greatest action heroes of all time is because one of the things you brought up in the question, which is, you know, he doesn't have a franchise, you know? But John, he's in Fast and Furious. Yeah, but he didn't get in that till Fast and Furious 5, and that's really Vin Diesel's franchise. And so The Rock doesn't really have a franchise. That's a big iconic franchise like Conan, like Rocky, like Rambo, you know, things like that. He doesn't really have that franchise, big thing that's his, you know what I'm saying? And that might be what one of these keeping down. But yeah, my personal action hero Mount Rushmore thing would probably be Stallone, Schwarzenegger, Jean-Claude Van Damme, and The Rock. So that's just me, but what do you guys think? All right. Let's move on now to the next live question. And who does this one come from? This one comes to us from Ethan Canistra. So Ethan Canistra has sent in this next one. Let's check out what Ethan has to say.
Hi John, love the show and watch every day. Do you think that we will get any footage from the Deadpool 2 marketing campaign? It might seem like an odd question, but the first Bob Ross trailer that was released for Deadpool 2 really didn't have any footage in it. Instead, it just showed a parody sketch of Deadpool as Bob Ross with a couple of quick little scenes from Deadpool 2. And the synopsis really didn't reveal any information about the movie. What are your thoughts about this?
Well, yeah, I mean, so if you look at it, there was, of course, that there was that Bob Ross thing. And I thought that Bob Ross thing was absolutely incredible. I thought that Bob Ross thing was great. But let's not undersell it. I mean, there was some footage from the film in it. And it was very rapid and all that kind of stuff. Now, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong in the chat board. Off the top of my head, I'm thinking it's May 18th is when Deadpool 2 comes out. So that's roughly when January, February, March, April, May. It's still 4 months away. We've had the first announcement trailer. We've had our first look at it. The next trailer, or the movie doesn't come out for another 4 months. I mean, it could be like another month before we get, you know, a full-blown trailer. Because there's a lot of big movies coming out. And, you know, we've got Black Panther's coming out. That's going to be a big one. That's going to dominate a lot of the ad space. So they might wait a little while. They might wait till the end of February, beginning of March, things like that before they put it out. I mean, it could drop tomorrow. You never know. But at this point, like, it's a different situation than, say, Solo, because we've had our first look at the movie. Even though it was kind of a little sketch with Bob Ross thing, they did show us a bunch of footage from the movie, right? So on that level, I think it's okay. I don't think there are any rush to give us another trailer. So I won't be surprised if they wait till over another month. End of February, beginning of March. That's my guess. And nobody's told me anything. That's just my guess. Okay, let's go on now to the next question. This one comes to us from Isaac Beebe.
Hi John, how are you? This is Isaac Beebe, one of your Patreon supporters, sending in a question for Open Mic. My question is, what is your favourite video game of all time? For me personally, mine is The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, but I would love to know what yours is. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Elder Scrolls Skyrim. Now, I got an interesting little story about Elder Scrolls Skyrim. I was playing that, and I was playing it on an iMac. And this is going back a couple of years now. I was playing it on an iMac, and the house got hit by lightning. I mean, I know we've heard these stories all the time, right? But there was a big electrical surge, and poof, there goes my iMac. And my iMac died that day while I was playing Skyrim. So anyway, my favorite video game of all time, you have to go really far back. Obviously, I was obsessed with World of Warcraft. I was obsessed with World of Warcraft. I played that a hell of a lot. I was obsessed with StarCraft. That was a big game to me. My all-time favorite first-person shooter was Unreal Tournament. I love that one. I love like an action comedy game, a solve the puzzles you go game like Day of the Tentacle from LucasArts. I love that game. And like Sam and Max Hit the Road. But I think my all-time favorite, I'm going to combine two into one here because they're the same series. And that was TIE Fighter and X-Wing. Those old simulator, first-person flying shoot-'em combat games that came out ages ago and like ran off floppy disks. I think there was no game ever. I mean, I probably put in more time playing World of Warcraft, but I mean, my all-time favorites are going to be X-Wing and TIE Fighter. Those ones still hold a very near and dear special place in my heart. All right, let's move on to the next one. The next video message comes to us from Tristan Glover, and let's see what Tristan Glover has to say.
Hey John, do you think martial arts movies will ever make a comeback in Hollywood? You've got guys like Scott Adkins, Michael Jai White, Donnie Yen, Tony Jaa just sitting there, could be huge stars, and there's just nothing for them. You have martial arts in The Fast and Furious and Captain America and a bunch of superhero movies, but do you ever think the genre itself will actually make a comeback? Thank you.
All right, thanks a lot for the question, man. And let's go to the one guy you mentioned, which was Michael Jai White. Michael Jai White is some kind of spectacular awesome. I love Michael Jai White, and he put out this little film a couple of years ago that I am still shocked that nobody talks about, which is Black Dynamite. Dynamite, Dynamite. It's awesome. It's funny and hilarious, and it's totally a spoof. It's totally a spoof comedy kind of movie. But it's just all kinds of awesome. If you have not seen Black Dynamite, watch Black Dynamite. Not to be confused with Black Lightning, which is in theaters right now. But make sure you get out and watch Black Dynamite. That thing's awesome. I think, look, the pure martial arts film, will they ever make a comeback like the way they were popular in the 80s? Like, I remember in the 80s watching Jim Kata, watching Enter the Ninja, watching those Shokasagi, like ninja movies, right? Like, me and my buddies used to play ninja all the time. Remember, what was it? Something Eagle, the one with Shokasagi and Jean-Claude Van Damme, a much younger Jean-Claude Van Damme. Used to watch these movies all the time, right? I honestly don't think we're ever going to get another golden era like that of the martial arts movie. And here's the interesting thing. I mean, we'll have movies with great martial arts in them for sure, but will we get like pure, just like Jim Kata and things like that, just straight up their martial arts movies? I don't know that we're ever going to have those. And I think one of the reasons, and this is not me, casting shade on anybody. I think this is just a reality that, some of the guys that you mentioned, whether it's Scott or whether it's Scott or Tony Jaa or Michael Jai White, things like that. Scott, I think he's terrific. Everything he's in, I really like him, but I don't know that he's a strong enough actor that he can legit be a leading man. I really don't. And that's why when a lot of people before, remember when they were looking for Batman forever ago, a lot of people would mention Scott and they bring his name up. And my big hesitation was, hey, does he have the look? Sure. Can he pull off all the action? Yes, but they're not looking for a stuntman. They're looking for a true, legit leading man who can lead a blockbuster film and probably lead an entire franchise. And I don't know if he's that guy. I like him very much when he's in these small supporting roles. Tony Jaa, obviously there's a huge language barrier, so that's not really going to happen. Although he was in the last Fast and the Furious movie, was he not? I thought he was. Anyway, or 2 Fast and Furious movies ago. So on those bases alone, I don't see them making a big, strong comeback. I think there'll always be a place for high martial arts action in the movies, and I think there's going to be a place in these movies for people like Tony Jaa and Scott and Michael Jai White and what have you. But like the pure headliner martial arts films, I think the day has come and gone for them, sadly. But don't worry, we still got all those originals that we can go back and watch. All right, let's check out the next one. And this one comes to us from Isaac Beale. Let's see what Isaac Beale has to say.
John, somebody recently asked on the show if you could find the theatrical cut of the original trilogy, and you said they need to hunt down a VHS, but have you heard of the despecialized edition? They're recreated theatrical cuts in HD. You can download them on the internet and make your own discs.
Yes, I have seen the despecialized edition. Actually, I've talked about the despecialized editions. Are you sure you didn't find out about the despecialized editions from me? But at any rate, I really like the despecialized editions. They're quite good. They're not perfect. Obviously, they're not perfect. But they did do a very good job with them, and you can find those online. Since you brought it up, though, let me also mention another set of special Star Wars fan-edited things on the prequels. If you want to watch the prequels because you're a Star Wars fan, but it's hard to watch them because the prequels suck so bad, look up the anti-cheese editions, the anti-cheese edits of the prequels. I don't know who did them, but the guy who did them brilliantly. Like, absolutely brilliantly. And they don't turn pieces of garbage movies into Oscar winners. I'm not saying that, but this dude made the made the prequels watchable. I kid you not. He made them watchable. The way he moved some things around, certain things he cut out, but then he did big things like he changed like the Nemoidians' voices. He totally changed their voices and gave them an alien language. So instead of saying, we must disrupt all the communications down there, that stupid thing, he actually gives them like an alien voice and then puts in subtitles and changes the dialogue a bit so it's not so cringeworthy. So I'm glad you brought up the despecialized editions. You folks should look them up if you're looking into them. And then I also want to promote and mention the anti-cheese. I don't know about the legality of these things at all. I have no clue, but they're out there, and there's a thing called the anti-cheese version. Check it out. All right. This next one comes to us from Anurag, and Anurag writes this.
Big fan from India. I wanted to ask, by looking the trailer of Infinity War, what do you think the budget of the movie is? Thanks, and keep it filthy.
Infinity War, what do I think the budget is? First of all, can I mention, over the past 6 months, I've actually been really surprised and blown away by how many of you guys are in India and how many people in India watch and support the show. And all I can say is that's awesome. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. It's difficult to tell the budget of a movie like Infinity War just by looking at its trailer. It's difficult. I mean, you can tell it's a big budget film. What do I think the budgets are? There is this completely bogus report going around. It is just not true. Going around that combined, the two Avengers movies are going to cost $1 billion. They're $500 million each. I can tell you, there are still some, that was debunked, by the way. But there are still a lot of people out there who, that's the last thing that they heard, was that they heard that it was like $500 million each film. That is not true. Okay? That is not true. So what kind of budget are we looking at? My guess is that it's probably about $250 million, which is still ridiculously expensive. Like, that's more expensive, I mean, before the reshoots. That's way more expensive than what Justice League cost. Before the reshoots, that's way more expensive than what the new Han Solo movie cost. So my guess is, just my best guess, is that those movies are going to come in right around the mark of about $250 million each. That's my guess. All right, thanks a lot for the question, Anag. All right, and the final emailed in question for audio or video I'm going to take today comes to us from Noel Schuler, and Noel sends in this.
Hi, John. Why do you think Warner Brothers never offered the DCEU franchise to David Heyman? To me, it seemed like a no-brainer. He handled the Harry Potter franchise exquisitely well, and it's one of the greatest franchises of all time. I'd like to hear your thoughts.
All right, David Heyman, yeah, he's a very, very good producer. He's worked on a number of very, very high-profile things, not to mention the Harry Potter thing. However, he's kind of busy. And just because, you know, he has an affinity for, like, the material Harry Potter, that doesn't necessarily mean that he was interested in doing comic book movies, right? So who's to say that Warner Brothers, say, didn't give him the option or the opportunity to maybe get involved with the DCEU, but it's just, you know, comic book movies maybe not his thing. I don't know that. I'm just speculating here. But it's also important to keep in mind he's still very busy. He's still plugged into the Harry Potter universe. Because not only was he the producer on Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, he's also producing the upcoming Fantastic Beasts 2, and he's producing Fantastic Beasts 3, and he's got one or two other projects mingled in there. That is a huge docket on his plate. So I am not surprised that he's not involved there. Now, it's also important to keep in mind that the guy they got involved to be kind of a guiding hand producer on the DC films is Charles Roven. Charles Roven was also kind of the guiding hand producer on the Christopher Nolan Dark Knight trilogy. And and I believe he was also involved in Harry Potter, as a matter of fact. I think he was also involved in Harry Potter. So they've got a very good producer in there. You know, the issues that they have there are not necessarily with who their directors are and who their producers are. The issues that they're having at DC are overall systemic issues that start from the very top and then work their way down. They got to work those things out. But yeah, very good observation, though, about bringing up David. Absolutely. All right, guys. Now, with all the emailed in media questions out of the way, let's jump over to some of the live questions. I'm going to start with a couple of questions from Twitter. So let me see what's on Twitter here. We're going to start this one off from Holly2332. By the way, guys, you don't have to just send in questions. If you've got something on your mind, you got a statement you want to make, take this time. This is open mic. So ask a question by all means if you'd like, but just send in a statement or a comment or an observation or an opinion on something if you want. This is your time. All right, let's see. Holly2332 writes, John, what happened to the Voltron movie? Well, it never really was. There were a couple of attempts to get it going. There was an announcement here and there that a certain producer was coming on board and some names we recognize. But remember, 9 out of every 10 movies stall before they actually get officially greenlit and go into production. So it's not really about, hey, what happened to that Voltron movie? The real thing is that there never really was a Voltron movie to start with. Yes, there was an idea for it. Yes, they put some things in place to see if they could make something happen, but it was never a fully functional, we're heading into this, we're doing this movie. Some people might have said we're doing that, but it never actually got to that stage. The reality is, we've never gotten close to getting a Voltron movie. Yeah, they've looked at it. Yeah, they put some people in place, but we've never really got close. All of that was still like really, really early stage of stuff, and unfortunately, we never really got close to a real thing happening. Let's see. Let's go to this one. This one comes to us from Tony Rogers 2099, who writes, John, with Avengers 4 being bookended for most of the roster, do you see Spider-Man or Captain Marvel? Oh, unfortunately, the tweet was too long and it went off. I think where you're going with that, Tony, is do I see Spider-Man or Captain Marvel becoming like the new Captain America and Iron Man? Because I think you might have asked a question like that before. It's possible. I don't really see Spider-Man becoming a leader, per se. He's just too inexperienced, too young, all that kind of stuff. So I don't see him becoming a leader, per se. They may set up Captain Marvel to become the new de facto. Because right now, from my point of view, Captain America is the leader of the Avengers. If Chris Evans steps away after Avengers 4, which I'm still not convinced he will, to be honest with you. But if Chris Evans steps away from that and they decide to take Captain America out of the movies for a bit, then it's quite conceivable that Captain Marvel becomes, pardon me, kind of becomes that figurehead. So we'll have to see what goes on there. Let's see here. Where'd it go? Okay, let's try this one here. I don't know if we're going to get the whole one in there. And we did. This one comes from Jorge V40589237, writes, John, this is Jorge from Costa Rica. Love your show. Thank you so much, Jorge. Do you think Adam Warlock and Sentry deserves an important role in the MCU? Wrong question. It's not about who does. Nobody deserves anything. Nobody deserves anything. Okay? No character in the comic books deserve to have a movie or a central role and blah, 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 blah. At this point, I mean, it would just be nice to see them pop up in the films at all. Do they deserve to have, and I'm not making fun of you because I've had people like it, I know personally in person who have had face-to-face conversations with complaining, like they weren't complaining about Adam Warlock, but complaining about other characters saying, this character deserves to have this and it's disrespectful to the character. It's like, you do realize this isn't a real person you're talking about, right? You're talking about some colored ink on a piece of paper. They don't deserve anything. Would it be nice to see Adam Warlock in there? Yeah, if they can figure out a way that he fits in well, then sure. Could they do something like that from Sentry? Sure, if they can figure out a way to make him fit in well. But no, I don't adhere to that kind of language, that this fake, make-believe, imaginary, fictional character is owed a central place in this thing. I don't agree with that, per se. So, I mean, if they can come up with a way to do it, great. But if they can come up with a way to do that for any character, then I'm totally okay with it as well. So, anyway, that's just kind of my thoughts on that. All right. That'll do it for the Twitter questions. Now, earlier on the John Campea show, there were a couple of extra Super Chats that came in that I didn't get to. So let me get to those ones quick. These were from the John Campea show earlier that I didn't get to. Who Flung Poo, what a great username, by the way. Who Flung Poo writes, fan cast for Wolverine. I have no idea what you're talking about. What do you mean, fan cast for Wolverine? I'm not quite sure what you mean. Guys, when you send in questions, this is a great example. Please make sure that when you write out your comment or question, you write it in such a way that somebody who's not you could read it and completely easily understand what it is you're talking about. Because I feel bad now, Who Flung Poo, because I can't answer your question. You got such a great username, and I feel bad. Scott Bistro writes, thoughts about the new R-rated Suicide Squad cartoon? Yeah, a trailer dropped for this not too long ago. Christian Slater, I think, is the voice of Deadshot or something like that. Anyway, there was nothing in the trailer that was R-rated. They're calling it R-rated. And what's it called? Like Suicide Squad, Hell's Gate, or Hell and Back? The word hell. There, maybe that's why it's rated R. The word hell's in there. But I remember DC did that R-rated not Death in the Family. Who was it? It was, which one was it? Where Batman had sex with Batgirl. Why am I freezing on the name of the movie? Killing Joke. I think that was it. They did that Killing Joke movie and they said, oh, and it's rated R, everybody. Everybody, this DC animated film is going to be rated R. Woo! Piece of shit movie. And there was nothing in it that remotely justified it being rated R. I swear to God, there was nothing rated R about that thing. They just put the tag R on it just so they could use it as marketing hype. Hey, everybody, we got a rated R cartoon here. And everybody lost their minds. Oh, it's rated R. It was shit. And there was no R-rated material in there. So honestly, I am dubious now about them saying that this Suicide Squad animated film is going to be R-rated. Yeah, I'll believe it when I see it. I'm not saying it's not true. I'm just saying I'll believe it when I see it. Damian Wilson wrote, will Disney market when? Will Disney market its streaming service? I mean, that's a great question. I mean, but look, let's give them some time. They've already said that this streaming service isn't happening until at least 2019. And they didn't even really give us a firm date in 2019. And it's always possible they could come back to us and say, you guys know I have my cough, so I'm having to keep drinking my tea here. You know, it's possible they may come back and they may push that. It's still forever away. I mean, we could be almost 2 full years away from it, because if it comes out in December of 2019, that's almost 2 full years away. So there's no need for them to start marketing this now. I would suspect, look, it all depends on when they plan on launching it. If they plan on launching it in like February of 2019, then I suspect probably sometime around August, they'll start marketing it. Slowly, and then build up as they get closer to the end of the year. If they're not going to put it out to, say, September, October, November of 2019, we're not going to probably see ads for it till summer of 2019. So that's probably still quite a ways away. All right, let's get now. A whole bunch of you guys have been sending in comments and things like that. Going live, I'm going to get through as many of these as I can. By the way, guys, if you have not sent in a question yet, please do not send in any more. If you have not yet sent in a comment or question, please do not send in any more. Now, the last one I'm going to take is going to be from Johnny Oseguerra, who sent one in at 4:28 p.m. That's the last one I'm going to take, okay, guys? So no more in. Don't worry, we're doing open mic every day, Monday through Friday, so you'll be able to get your comment and thought in there too. But let's get going here. The first one here comes to us from Sam Fisher. Sam Fisher's writing in, will you do a screw you, I love the Ewok shirt? And if you do, maybe the shirt should list all the reasons why in the back. For those of you who don't know what Sam's talking about, I did a video a number of years ago that I still believe in and I still stand by called Screw You, I Love the Ewoks. And it's me giving a dissertation about why the Ewoks are actually awesome. Like, completely awesome. Hunter killers who will eat the flesh of their fallen enemies, sever their heads, and use them as musical instruments. And they won't just kill you. They will tie you up and burn you alive over an open fire and then tear the flesh off your burnt bones and eat your flesh. That's the cute little Ewoks. But anyway, I think, yes, I think once I get around to making some merchandising, I think we're going to see a Screw You, I Love the Ewok shirt. All right, let's go. What's next here? Jed Jensen writes, Legends of Tomorrow is going to have an episode about a young Barack Obama. Is it too soon to have a recent president in today's political climate? It's risky, given today's political climate. I mean, look, I'm Canadian, but I live in the U.S., so I have an interesting perspective. I'm in a unique position as a Canadian living in the U.S. And I can tell you this. The United States is almost a joke of a name. This country is not united. This is a great country. This is a wonderful country that is devastatingly ununified and just completely divided. And sure, I've got my opinions about over who's more to blame than others, but there's enough blame to go around for everybody. So any movie involving anybody involved in a political process is a bit risky. It is. And that's okay. I mean, I don't mind them doing that. They're going to take their risks, and people who lean left politically are going to think it's awesome. People who lean right politically are going to say it's the second return of Satan. And quite the opposite, if they suddenly did say, if it was looking back at the presidency of, George Bush II. One side is going to say, this is great. One side will say, this is horrible. I mean, this is a stupidly divided country with absolutely no middle ground. And it's kind of depressing, actually, because this country, look, one of the great things we have about Canada is people are not, in Canada, people will not live and die by the party they follow. Here's a great example, the Liberal Party of Canada, right? So I remember this one time, they won in a landslide, the Ontario provincial government. But this one particular government, under this one particular leader, did not do a great job. So you know what happened the next election? People didn't vote, well, I'm a card-carrying Liberal. No, they voted for whoever they thought would do the best job next, even if that meant voting against their party. Because what is best for the country comes first before what is best for our party or our dogma. That is not the case in the United States of America. You could tell somebody, it seems to me in the United States of America, that you could tell somebody, hey, there's an election coming up and there's a Democrat and a Republican. And the Democrat, in this one particular case, for example, is a college-educated community service guy, even served in the military, loves his country. The guy he's running against is a baby seal rapist. He rapes baby seals and he beheads chickens and pours their blood over homeless people in the streets while he yells at them and pisses on them. People don't care. One's a Democrat and one's a Republican. Well, I'm voting for the Republican because I'm the Republican. And the same is true in the opposite as well in this country. The same is true in the opposite as well. Listen to me going off on this political diatribe. But that is, I think, one of the big problems in America. This great country that I choose to live in. I wasn't born here. I'm not forced to live here. I choose to live here. I'm a little stuck because my wife is here. But I also choose to live here. This is a great country. But I think a lot of people would agree with me that the big problem here is that people don't give a fuck about what's right and what's wrong. They care about, what does my party stand for? If that guy's running for my party and what's that? He burned a bus of nuns alive who were delivering food to orphans and he burned them alive. Oh, but the other guy's a Republican. Okay, I'm still voting for the Democrat. I mean, look, we've got a president right now in this country who famously correctly said before he was elected, I could walk up in front of news cameras and shoot somebody on the steps of a public building and I'll still get elected. He was right. He was right. That's the political environment of the country that I live in right now. And that to me, so when you're talking about a show doing something, is it risky to have a political figure in your show or to do, yeah, it is. You're going to divide the audience a little bit. But bravo to them for stepping up and doing it anyway. But it is risky and it's going to turn some people off and you got to be aware of that. Anyway, I went on way longer on that than I intended to. I apologize, guys. Let's see. The next one. Darth Wayne 97 writes, Hugh Jackman opening the Oscars with The Greatest Show has to happen. What other perfect way is there to open the most important award show? No, I put out a tweet. And I don't know if you saw this. If you follow me on social media, I got all giddy because I put out this tweet and Hugh Jackman liked it. And I took a screenshot. Oh my God, Hugh Jackman liked my tweet. I was just geeking out completely. Everybody thinks I'm some Hollywood insider. I'm a loser nobody from Canada who does some YouTube show in my spare bedroom that I turned into a studio. I'm fucking nobody, okay? So when Hugh Jackman likes a tweet I put out, I freak out. Anyway, I put out a tweet that basically said, exactly what you're saying. I said, it will be a huge missed opportunity. Because just think of the song, The Greatest Show. This is the greatest show, where the runaways are running the night. Anyway, so it's a great song. It's a perfect song to open the Oscars with. Now, I don't like the music at the Oscars quite often. I don't like that that they have every single song nominated for Best Song performed. I don't like that. But I do like an opening musical number of the Oscars. And I think this year, The Greatest Show, being a big movie with one of the big stars, and just the name of the song, This is the Greatest Show, and you start off the Oscars with that, that's a no-brainer. That's a no-brainer. Even somebody like me who doesn't really like the music at the Oscars all that much, that's a no-brainer. You do that. It's going to, I don't know that they're going to do it, but it will be a huge missed opportunity if they don't. I completely believe that. Anyway, let's move on. Ben Rayner writes, do you think Glass will be slow and dramatic like Unbreakable, or have more action like Split? And which do you prefer? I think I prefer somewhere in between. Well, I mean, it really all depends on the particular movie, right? Some movies come across a lot of a much more slower burn. Some movies work better if they have a quicker cadence to them. I happen to agree with you, Ben. I think this one is going to be somewhere down the middle. Because, I mean, it's both done by the Shamhammer, right? So M. Night Shyamalan is doing them both. Or he's done all three, and he's doing the third one here. My guess is, again, I haven't heard from anybody, but I tend to agree with you, Ben. I think it's going to be somewhere split down the middle. It's going to be slow burn in some places, faster pace, a little more cadence, a little bit more action involved as well. It's a different era now, too. Bruce Willis isn't just discovering his powers now. He's been this hero for quite some time, so I expect to see a little bit more action in Glass. All right, Kyle Beckworth writes, thanks for all you do, John. Proud Patreon supporter. Dude, thank you so much for being a Patreon supporter. You make my channel happen. Micah T writes, yo, John, do you think Suicide Squad was the right move for DC's third movie? In my opinion, there are other characters more deserving. What do you think? Well, again, I don't think the word deserving should be a part of it. That's irrelevant. Completely irrelevant. However, I don't think it was the right move. Now, I like Suicide Squad. I know a lot of people don't, and it had its problems, absolutely. But I like the movie. And it overperformed. I mean, it made a good chunk of money at the box office, but that's not the issue. To me, it was a bad move because it did nothing to world build. It did nothing to continue building the world. It was an adjacent side story after Batman vs. Superman that seemed odd and out of place and badly timed. I just think, and remember, this is coming from somebody that go watch my review for it. I like the movie. I gave it a positive review. I even dressed up as Harley Quinn for the review. I had fun with it. But it was a questionable decision to make that the follow-up movie to Batman vs. Superman. Again, it just came across as a side story, as an adjacent story. It didn't do anything to build the world, per se. So yeah, I do think it was a mistake for them to do that. Thanks a lot for the question, Micah. Chris Bond writes, hey, John, love the channel. Thank you so much, Chris. I watch every day. Would love to hear your thoughts on the Sons of Anarchy spinoff. Thanks and keep up the filthy. Well, I don't know much about it other than the fact that it's going to be based on the Mayans. And the Mayans in Sons of Anarchy is the big rival to the Sons of Anarchy. Then they are also later on their closest allies, later on in the seasons of Sons of Anarchy. And I believe the series ends with them being actually quite close allies. And they did a great job in Sons of Anarchy world building the world of the Mayans. I felt like I knew the Mayans. I knew the Mayan Motorcycle Club pretty well. And so I'm excited about that. Now, there's also been talks about them doing like an original, the original 9 and things like that. And there's been a few things in motion and process. And to be honest, I've even lost track about what is actually moving forward at this point, to be honest with you. I'm just waiting for them to tell me when a debut date is for whatever it is. But anything Sons of Anarchy related, I'm on board. Paul O'Donovan writes, thoughts on the, where'd it go? Oh, thoughts on the Fargo TV series. I think it's one of the best ongoing shows right now, but I feel like it's not getting the attention it deserves. Well, Paul, here's something that proves your point, that it's not getting the attention it deserves. I basically haven't watched any of it. I watched a little bit of it just to see a little bit of Mary Elizabeth Winstead. But honestly, I haven't watched, and I have everybody telling me the show's awesome. I have not talked to one person who has watched that show that did not love it. I have not talked to one person who watched that show who didn't absolutely love it. And so when I get the time, it's just, I don't have time for a lot of television. I'm trying to watch more TV these days, but I haven't really watched it, but I hear nothing but great things about it. All right. Trevor Johnson writes, "Hey John, as one poker fan to another, thoughts on Rounders? I must have watched that movie dozens of times, and I love it each time. So don't splash the pot." I love Rounders. I'm big into any movie about poker, whether it's Rounders or Molly's Game, or whether it's that one with Woody Harrelson that's so great. And I'm forgetting the title of it is eluding me right now, but it's the name of the hotel is the name of the movie, and it's just fantastic. I love me a good poker movie, but Rounders is really great. And it is kind of crazy how, I mean, the drama of it is not real, but game dynamics and things like that, and the strategy and what goes through players' heads, a lot of that is very authentic. Johnny fucking Chan. Anyway, so I love Rounders. I try to watch it about once a year. I get a big kick out of it. And if you're into poker at all and haven't watched Rounders, you got to watch Rounders. Let's see here. The Crone Doggy writes, "Why do people care so much about the gender of characters, i.e. Star Wars leads? I identify with the character's personality's motivation. I'm only one caring about gender in real life for sex-having reasons." Honestly, I have no idea. People who complain because, why did they make the lead a woman? Well, why did they make those 7,000 other films have leads of men? Do you want to actually start comparing how many movies this year had male leads versus how many had female leads? Because I'll tell you right now, the male leads way outdistance the female lead movies by miles. I will never understand people who whine and complain that the movie has a female lead, therefore it has an agenda. I actually think you're the one with the agenda. If you're going to scream and holler that a movie that puts a female in a lead, or puts somebody of a different color, or of a different race in a lead, dare I suggest as a fellow film fan that maybe you need to look in the mirror, because maybe you're the one with the agenda. But honestly, it befuddles me that people within my own community, my own film fan community, would have those sorts of ways of thinking. But hey, I mean, it is what it is. We all have different ways of thinking. I'm sure people look at me with the way I think about different things and think, how Campea? Well, you're crazy. How do you think that way? I'm sure that happens too. We all look at the world through our own points of view. I channeled a little bit of Obi-Wan there. Lawrence Reed just sent in a super chat. Thanks, Lawrence. Andy A. Hernandez writes, "When's the merch coming out?" You know what? I've been talking to a couple people who've been sending me, some artists who are viewers of the show, have been sending me some concepts. And I got some of them are just great. You know what? Give me 1 second here. Let me see if I can find this. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to. I'm going to go to... This is so awkward and unprofessional. Look at me taking time to search the web for something while I'm doing a damn live show. What kind of guy does that, for heaven's sakes? But I just really want to show you this picture. Oh, there it is. Okay. Let me see if I can get it on the screen here. I should be able to. Here we go. Somebody sent this to me, which I just think is wonderful. I love this picture. Somebody made this picture of me, and I just love it. I just absolutely love it. I think it's just incredible. I dig it so much. But long and short of this, I've had a bunch of people recently been sending me some concept art for merchandise. Give me a couple weeks when I'm able to calm things down a little bit. I'm going to start pulling some of these together, talking to some of these artists, and merchandise will be coming soon. I will get some merchandise. I know people have been asking me for years for it. I've been saying for years that I'm looking at it, but now I'm actually going to start moving on it, because now I got guys sending me like great stuff like this. So it's coming, Andy, it's coming. All right, Green Monkey writes, "Have a piece of pie." Like 3.14. I get it. Well done. I should bring that up. So he says, "Have a piece of pie," and his super chat is for 3.14. And I'm sure if he could put in more, it'd be 3.1416, whatever the other things of pi are. Vernon Lee writes, "You are freaking awesome." Thank you, Vernon. I appreciate that, man, a lot. Thank you so much. Lawrence Reed writes, "Hey, John, what makes an actor/actress good? Would Jack Black have won an Oscar for School of Rock if he wasn't playing himself?" Well, I don't know. To me, look, whether they're playing themselves or not. And by the way, you don't know Jack Black off camera. I'll go out on a limb and guess you've never had lunch with him. Neither have I. I've met him a couple of, but I've never had lunch with him. I don't hang out with Jack Black. I don't know him. You don't know him. So when we say he's just playing himself, really, from what position of expertise am I or you saying that from? From what position of expertise? I am an expert on Jack Black. I hang out with him all the time. I know what he's like off camera. On camera, he's just playing himself. We don't know. I mean, that's the beauty of it, right? We don't know. But to me, and this is just from my personal point of view, is does the actor or actress portray the character in such a way that it feels so authentic to its own environment, whether it's horror, comedy, drama, action, whatever. Does the actor or actress play that character with such authenticity within the context of that movie's environment that it enhances bringing me into the film, forgetting everything else, and just buying that this character they are bringing to life is a real flesh and blood character? Can they do that? That's what makes Daniel Day-Lewis the best that's ever lived. Nobody has ever done it as good as Daniel Day-Lewis. That's one of the reasons why I love Russell Crowe so much. It's just he does it. Whether you like the movies he does or not is completely a side point. But I just love the movies that they do because they make me buy into the authenticity of the character being completely realistic to the environment that they're in, that it just draws me more into the movie. So that it is for me, but it might be different for you. It's kind of a subjective thing like movies in general. Kevin Bennett is writing, how are you going to hire anyone when you refuse to wear pants? Well, they're just going to have to be okay with being around me with no pants. No, I am no Harvey Weinstein. I'll be honest with you. The person who I'm going to get to work with me most of the time is going to be working from home, not from here. And when they are here, I will make sure I'm wearing pants. So there you go. Let's see. David Goldstein writes, Super Bowl prediction, and you're lucky Wentz is hurt. No, look. First of all, I said when Wentz went down, and everybody's like, oh, now the Eagles have to use their backup quarterback. I'm sorry. Everybody seems to have forgotten that Foles is a multi-time Pro Bowler and once threw 7 touchdowns in one game. Foles is not a step backwards from Wentz. I will stand on that. I'm not saying he's better than Wentz, but I'm telling you right now, he is not a step backwards from Wentz. Not at all. Did you see the game he played last night? That was sick good. I'll tell you what. Going into that game as a Patriots fan, I thought the Patriots matched up much better against the Vikings. Because I'm a Patriots fan. The Eagles scare me much more. Even with Foles at quarterback. As much as they would with Wentz. But I do think the evil master, the emperor himself, good. I do believe Bill Belichick is going to figure it. He is the best coach in the league. And he's got the greatest quarterback of all time. Now, that's just beyond question. That Brady is the GOAT. Nobody even doubts that anymore. Even people who hate him acknowledge, he's an asshole. But yeah, he's the best that's ever played the game. He is. I think they'll find a way to do it. But man, I'm not going to lie to you, man. The Eagles scare me. The Eagles straight up scare me. They are a great team, well coached, talented on offense, on defense, on special teams, and their damn backup quarterback to me could be a starting quarterback in probably 19 of the teams in the NFL. So, hey, if you're an Eagles fan, don't feel so bad that Wentz isn't there because Foles is for real. Anyway, Rodrigo Ramirez writes, do you have any lightsabers? Yep, I do. At the moment, I have 2: the Black Series Edition and the Luke's green one, and Yoda's. I don't even know what they are. We have a couple of lightsabers kicking around the house, and Anne has a couple of her own as well. So I'll pull those out sometime and show them to everybody. Mono Report writes, "Hey John, any chance you'll reteam with Jeremy Johns?" Well, Jeremy's moved back out to Seattle and doing his thing. He's gone back to just doing what's comfortable for him, and that's, I mean, really, what. Is there any greater thing in life than be able to just go back to what you really love? And he's gone back to doing his thing. He's in Seattle. So no, I don't think you're going to probably see Jeremy doing a lot of big team things like he did before. Maybe on a special occasion now and then. But he's off doing what he does best. I mean, it is my opinion. He may not be the most well-versed film critic in the world or things like that. But when it comes to, for my money, when it comes to a guy who is the perfect balancing point between good, solid movie insight versus an incredibly entertaining, dynamic way of communicating that insight, I don't think there's anybody better. There's just not anybody better at doing that than Jeremy Jahns. He's been really successful at it, and he's gone back, and I think he made the right decision for himself. And he's just the best. He's just the best. Aussie Nerd writes, are there any movies that you love because they spoke to you on a personal level? Mine is Battle of the Sexes. Yes. Pardon me, guys. Mine is Clerks 2. Now, that may sound silly, but Clerks 2 was a movie by Kevin Smith that it hit me on such a personal level because I went through this big struggle in this period of my life where I had an opportunity to do something. This is going back years. I had an opportunity to do something, but it required me up and moving across the country, leaving my family, my friends, people I loved, my close circle of people that I had lived amongst for about 7 years. And I had the opportunity to move away. And conventional wisdom says, well, it's for a job opportunity. Yes, you up and go and chase the job opportunity. But I was really struggling at the time about what matters most in life. Isn't life about family and friends and those close circles and those people we've come to love? Isn't that what life's about? And I made the decision to move, and I don't necessarily regret that decision. But anyway, it was in the midst of all that I saw Clerks 2. And that was the exact theme of Clerks 2 that one of the main characters was facing. And that's one of the reasons why that movie is so special to me. I think it's so smart emotionally. Amidst all the donkey show jokes and all that kind of stuff and all the vulgarity and ass to mouth and whatever else jokes are in that movie, there is something so emotionally intelligent about Clerks 2 that just made me fall in love with it, and I love it deeply. Let's see. The Incredible Kyle writes, hey, John, if you could take one superhero from each cinematic universe, MCU and DCU, and put them in the other universe, which hero would you choose and why? That's something I'd have to think about, man. That's something I'd have to sit down and think about. It would always be really interesting. I've always thought it'd be interesting to see the Hulk in the DCU, because the Hulk is such just a pure force of nature, destructive force. And to see how does the DC universe respond to that? And that becomes tricky. As far as going the other way, I think it'd be really fun to see a Batman character in the MCU. This dude, no powers. But John, the MCU has people with no powers. Yeah, but nobody like Bruce Wayne. So it'd be interesting to see some dude with no powers go in there and school everybody. Like Superman says, the most dangerous being alive on the earth is Bruce Wayne. He's the most dangerous person alive. He's a good guy, thank God, but he is the most dangerous person alive. And you bring that type of a presence into the MCU, I think that would be really interesting to see too. So that, off the top of my, don't hold me to that, I have to think about it, but off the top of my head, that's what I come up with. All right, guys, I'm going to try to rush it there. Whew, a lot of questions here. Okay, Koba writes, best comic book movie that isn't Marvel or DC, Mystery Men. I love Mystery Men. I just love that movie start to finish, man. Mystery Men. Lehigh Valadares writes, how is that big movie studio still make bad movies? Why not hire an army of critics and professional writers and make a stellar script? Money is there. Dude, look, I've been saying this many times. Everybody thinks they've got a winner on their hands when they move forward with it. You just never know. I remember once Martin Scorsese talking about that. Says, look, you can have the greatest script. You can be on set shooting the movie and thinking, oh my God, we're going to win 8 Oscars for this movie. But really, at the end of the day, it's not until, I remember Scorsese talking about this in a Q&A once, saying it's not until you get in the editing room and you really start putting this movie together that you really, really know what it is you have. There are many bad movies that I'm sure looked great on a script and felt like it was coming together great while shooting, and it wasn't until they got into that editing room that they realized this didn't quite work out the way we thought. And there is no way to 100% prevent that. There's just no way. It's art, man. As far as Put armies of professional writers and critics. Really? You think the answer is just cramming more people, more chefs in the kitchen? If you think the answer to making a great steak is by putting 40 chefs in the same kitchen, that's the opposite of coming up with a great steak. Because you're going to have conflicting opinions, pulling things in multiple directions. No, that's not the way to do it. It's art, man. And every movie that you think is bad, somebody else think is great. That's the subjectivity of film, and it's art, and there's no formula to it. There's no exact science to it. It's always going to be a little bit of a roll of the dice. Luis Garza writes, thoughts on the new Incredibles 2 synopsis and plot reveals. Evelyn is probably the villain. Also, if Finding Dory reached 1 billion, why not this? Well, I don't know. I got a feeling they haven't revealed the villain yet. I don't think Evelyn's the villain. I could be wrong about that. I don't think Evelyn is the villain. I think they have not revealed the villain yet. The synopsis was fine. I mean, there's really nothing there other than saying that Elastigirl is the one out fighting crime right now while Mr. Incredible stays home to raise the kids. I thought that was neat. Probably wanting to mentor and keep an eye on Jack Jack. So that's neat. But reaching $1 billion it's a tough thing. Like you say, why not? Well, I mean, sure, it could. But 1 out of every 700 films becomes $1 billion film. Maybe 1 out of every 500 films becomes $1 billion movie. And so it's not that easy. And I think it's unfair to the movie because now you start talking Incredibles 2, $1 billion. If it doesn't hit $1 billion, people go, oh, it underperformed. No, it did not. If Incredibles 2 makes $780 million, $800 million, that is a smash, runaway, awesome success for Disney that they should jump up and down and celebrate. It's just this $1 billion number, people forget just how nearly impossible it is. And yes, oh, one movie did it, why can't they all? Well, 4 or 5 Marvel films have, why haven't any of the DCU films? Or why haven't the other 13 MCU movies hit $1 billion? 4 or 5 of them hit $1 billion, why not all of them? Because it's really hard to do it. And that $1 billion thing, that takes a special thing. Imagine, now look, if Incredibles 2 comes out, and it's awesome, and it's fantastic, it's huge, buzzword of mouth, blah, 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 but you can say that about any movie, then yes, maybe it has legs to get to $1 billion. I'm not saying it's not possible. It is possible. I just wouldn't put my money on it at this point. That's all I'm saying. All right. Tested writes, so Black Panther didn't give us much story in the trailer. I'm digging it. Do you think Marvel could benefit from this? Well, I think you're wrong. I think as the trailer, I mean, the first trailer absolutely did not give us much. But that was really just the first announcement trailer. That's fine. I have found the additional spots we've seen have gradually started to give us more insight to what this film is about. Clearly, we have T'Challa now struggling with the realities of what it means that he is now king. And he's trying to balance of what that means and the place that Wakanda is supposed to have in the wider world. And he's dealing with that and struggling with that. All while he's got this usurper in Killmonger, being played by Michael B. Jordan, with Gollum with him, Andy Serkis with him there, who wants to take the throne and the crown for himself. And he believes, so now you've got T'Challa, who's got to struggle with what it means to be king, leading his nation, trying to make his nation more a part of the wider world, while you get somebody else from Killmonger now wanting to take over the throne and take over the crown and beat him down for it. I say that the trailers have given us everything we need to know what the basic idea of this movie is. But it hasn't given a lot away as far as spoilers and all that kind of stuff. I wish movies like Blade Runner 2049 could learn that lesson. That you can tell the audience, what is this story about? Without giving away massive spoilers. And I feel like the Black Panther marketing campaign has done that very well. Let's see. Cobra writes, do you watch Cumberbatch's Sherlock TV show? Never have. Never watched a single episode. I'd like to, but I never have yet. Ash Cartwright writes, hey, John, I know there's a mathematical reason that dictates the Best Picture nominees, but don't see why it can't be 10. Now we're just getting back into another question that, look, we already went over this. Why can't they just take 10 films with the most votes? Seems straightforward to me. If you understand the way that math works, it's not just that simple. Also, why does there have to be a definitive number? I don't get it. It's like, okay, our system came up with 8 films getting nominated for Best Picture. well, let's make it 10. Why? No reason. Let's just make it 10. I don't understand. 10's just a nice round number. Really? Yeah, but those extra 2 films have absolutely zero. Any 2 films we just put in there to fill the spots have zero chance of winning. Let's do it anyway. I don't see it. The mathematical system they put in place means even though there will be front runners, every film that gets nominated is actually going to have a chance to win. Some very small, some much larger. You go through that process and still have 2 or 3 empty spots and say, just fill them with 3 more films. Why? What's the functional purpose? Just so we can say we have a round number? Like, I disagree with you on that. I don't think we just throw in films just for the sake of throwing them in. If the mathematical process works out that we've got 7 films that have a legit chance of winning, clearly there are going to be 2 or 3 front runners that are most likely to win. That's fine. But then why just take the 3 scragglers and just throw them in and just say they have nominations? I don't see the purpose of that other than to say, well, 10's a round number. I don't, what's the advantage of that? So, yeah, I disagree. And listen, man, you're not the only one that thinks that, Ash. There are a lot of people out there who would like to see it just be 10. And there are. Just to me is, other than saying it's a round number, what's the point of just making it 10? I don't get that. Now, when you get into smaller numbers like 5 nominees, that makes more sense because you are actually fighting it out for those 5 spots. It is tough to get those 5 spots. So I'm fine with them saying 5 because that's really more of a cutoff point. With 10 nominees for Best Picture, it's not a cutoff point. Now you're just going to put in films there just to fill the space. And is that what a Best Picture nominee film should be? I disagree. And maybe you guys agree with that. Maybe there's a lot of you guys who agree with that kind of thought and that, that way of thinking. That's all cool. All right, guys, listen, we've hit the 1 hour mark, and I only got a little over halfway through the live questions. So I promise I'm going to start off tomorrow's show, tomorrow's open mic. It's a new show, and I'm already forgetting the name of the show. I will start off tomorrow's open mic by getting through all the ones that are here first, okay? I will go through all these first ones here because I still got about 40% of the live super chat questions to get through. So I will get through those first on tomorrow's show. Before we take the audio and video questions, before we take Twitter, I will get to these ones first. So tune back in tomorrow. That's what we'll start off tomorrow's show with. Hey guys, this has been fun. I had a really good time doing this open mic. Remember guys, as we move forward, I'm loving the questions from you guys. Keep sending questions by all means, but also don't hesitate to use Twitter or to use the videos or to use the audio files that you send me just to give your opinion on something. I want your questions, but I also want to hear your opinion on things and you making a point about something too. So take advantage of that. Once again, guys, to send in a video or audio question, just email me at john@thejohncampeashow.com and put the word open mic. And if you want to send a video to me, and guys, by the way, please keep the file sizes as small as you can. If you want to, and you don't know how to send a video that's a proper file size, just upload it to YouTube and then send me a link and I'll download it from YouTube if you want to do that. Or just send me an audio file. That's really easy to do too. Send those in. I won't get to all of them, but absolutely not, but send them in. You have a very good chance of getting it on if you do. And then I'll get to the rest of these super chat questions tomorrow. So a special thank you to all you guys joining me for this first installment of Open Mic. To me, this has been a lot of fun. I hope you guys had a good time talking amongst yourselves in the chat board as well. I will be back again tomorrow, 4 p.m. LA time. That's 7 p.m. New York time. And if you're in a different time zone, just look up what that means to you guys. So that'll do it for me, guys. Thanks a lot for joining me. My name is John Campea. And until tomorrow's John Campea Show, bye-bye.